I'm here today to talk to you about Blencowe Resources. Blencowe Resources is a company that we set up on the London Stock Exchange, BRES, last April, so it's relatively new, and we are at this stage developing the world-class graphite deposit in Uganda called Orom-Cross. On the screen right now, you'll see a slide number 3, which gives you a couple of reasons why we think Blencowe Resources and Orom-Cross are quite unique, and we'll go through those in a little bit more detail through the presentation. But to just quickly touch on them, we've got an enormous deposit of graphite. The size and scale of it is literally world-class. So far, we've done 2 extensive drill programs, and we've only touched about 1% of the overall deposit. So it's enormous, which will give us significant advantages going forward. Secondly, we've got a very high quality end product. We've recently announced metallurgical test results that indicate that we can take our product up to 97 to 98% concentrate with low impurities. And more importantly, we can do it with high recoveries and a good mix of large flakes and small flake sizes. So we'll again go into that in a minute. Thirdly, a safe location. I believe that developing a resource project of size and scale, which is going to be around for a long, long time, is best done somewhere where you believe that you're going to continue to hold on to your project and not have issues. There are many locations around the world where one does have issues, but Uganda, which is in East Africa, is one of the most stable countries in Africa with a strong government, and more importantly, a government that's very supportive of its mining industry. Fourthly, we have an advanced project. We have a 21-year mining license already awarded, and the project is moving very quickly into a preliminary economic assessment stage, followed quickly by a pre-feasibility study. And finally, which I'll go into a little bit of detail, we're talking about selling product, particularly into the majority of our product, into the battery metals market. For those listeners who understand the lithium-ion batteries that are going to power electric vehicles, this is very important. Very quick ESG, we take this very seriously. Our environmental and our social and our governance responsibilities. We are doing a lot of things in the local community with our project. We've already signed a local community agreement to help the local people there. We've got education funds. Obviously, from the environment, we're doing impact studies, or we've done impact studies, and we're going to make sure that we keep the environmental impact very low. So that's all important stuff for us as well. This is where it gets interesting. We're going to be producing a significant amount of graphite. Where does graphite fall into the market? What makes it so interesting? Well, electric vehicles are obviously going to be powered by lithium-ion batteries, and lithium-ion batteries has as one of its key components flake graphite, which is what we will be producing. If you look at the market today, we've got approximately 11 million EVs out there, and in the next 8 to 10 years, as we move towards the end of the decade, this will move between 140 and 600 million, 140 million to 600 million EVs. All of these vehicles are going to require batteries, and all the batteries are going to require a significant amount of graphite. So there's an enormous demand for our product coming forward. There's, interestingly here, is what Elon Musk has said, that basically the lithium-ion battery actually shouldn't be called a nickel graphite. It should be called a nickel graphite battery because of the amount of nickel and the amount of graphite that is required. But at the end of the day, graphite is a significant portion of that lithium-ion battery, and any growth demand for EVs is going to have a corresponding growth in flake graphite. So it's very leveraged to the electric vehicle market, and obviously graphite itself is an important part of it. We own one of the largest high-quality flake graphite projects in the world today. We take a lot of our information from Benchmark Minerals Intelligence. They're one of the leading industry and market analysts on everything to do with battery metals. This is a very interesting slide because it's showing their perceived demand, which is the green curve, and their forecast and anticipated supply of graphite, which are all the boxes down below. And as you can see from the graph, around about 2024, 2025, that starts to change where there's an imbalance. And that supply deficit starts to grow, mainly because the demand for batteries will grow, and the flake graphite supply cannot grow as quickly. And it's going to create the potential for big spikes, as we're seeing already in terms of some of the demand and some of the price shifts that have occurred even in the last quarter. Going forward, it's going to be a lot worse. This is another very important slide because it shows that the growth in lithium-ion battery mega factories is occurring at great speed. Just 2 or 3 years ago, there were 50 odd electric vehicle battery mega factories around the world, mainly in China, but now in North America and Europe as well. And as of March, Benchmark Minerals Intelligence announced that the 200th mega factory is in the pipeline or producing. And each and every one of these is multi-billion-dollar investments, making literally millions of batteries, and obviously they're all predicting and forecasting the same growth as we are. So what's to do with the prices? Our end product at Orom-Cross is going to come through as a 97 to 98% concentrate. The MET test results are telling us about 40% of that are going to be jumbo, extra large or large flakes, and 60% as medium or small flakes. And you can see from the pricing there that the overall average price that we think that we'll be able to achieve upon our first production round 2025 is in the region of $1,500 per ton. We're targeting an operating cost of about $400 per ton, which leaves significant margin for the project. And I'll leave this slide for you to have a look at your own leisure, but there are typically a number of different applications for different mesh sizes for graphite, ranging from the more traditional thermal management and graphite foils for use in steel foundries across to the lithium-ion batteries and many in between. This is our corporate overview of the company. As I said, Blencowe acquired 100% of Orom-Cross in April 2020. We raised a little bit of cash then. We raised more cash along the way. All of our money has gone into developing the project. We've done 2 significant drilling programs already and a metallurgical test studies. And we are very tightly held. It's a tight structure, which is good. We have various different warrants sitting out there which provide the potential for more money going forward. But at this stage, we've got a market cap around about 7 to 8 million pounds, and we have the potential to really leverage that as the graphite the demand for graphite goes higher and higher going forward. This is our team. We've all got plenty of experience in the mining and resource industry. I've been developing junior resource companies for the past 15 to 20 years all over the world. I'm located here, as is our chairman, in Western Australia. Obviously, COVID's left us unable to travel to the UK as often as we'd like to, but that will change. And we're all able to work together with the people on the ground in Uganda to get the work done going forward. We've got very strong technical assistance going forward in terms of our COO. He's a mining engineer with plenty of experience and other technical partners. So we're very capable in terms of our experience, and in particular in terms of our African experience. This is where our project is. For those that understand or know the geography of Africa, Uganda is in East Africa, just to the west of Kenya. It's a great location. I spent 6 years living in Kenya. I know the area well, and it's a safe location, and it's certainly a place that I'm happy to be developing a project going forward. Orom-Cross was granted a 21-year mining license in 2019, which is very important because we've gone through all the environmental and mining license approvals process, and we've come out with the license in our hands. So we could start mining there tomorrow. And it's very important to say that the project is not only a very large deposit of some 2 to 3 billion tons, but most of it is near to the surface, which means that we'll have shallow open pit mining, low strip ratios, and that's why we can achieve the very low operating costs, which I alluded to before. Very importantly, we also contain a component of the high-value jumbo and large flakes, which, as I showed on the previous slide, can get much larger prices in the market. And this is what we've got to date. We've done a drilling program that delivered 16 million tons of graphite, around about 6%. Our second stage drilling, which is almost completed, it'll be completed by the end of July, will uplift that to over 20 million tons, but it will also lift the grade up towards that 8%, which is what we expected, mainly by bringing in our higher grade camp load, which wasn't brought into this original JORC resource. But there's a lot of graphite there, and we can show that from this metallurgical test results here that there's excellent upgrades that we can concentrate this to around about the 95, 96% from some of them, but on the composite, which is the mix of all of them, we're over 97% with over 90% recoveries, which is an excellent end result for that. This is where we are at the moment. We've got stage 2 drilling underway to get that 16 million tons into an indicated resource that we can use for our pre-feasibility study. That's almost completed. That will certainly be completed in the next couple of weeks, and then it'll all go for assaying, and we'll get a JORC upgrade in the next quarter. The met test work phase 2 has already been completed. Over the last couple of weeks, we made the announcements on that, and we're going to be kicking off very quickly into the studies phase, which will start with an internal concept study, a preliminary economic assessment, and in the beginning of next year, we'll be starting to get underway with the pre-feasibility study, and that will really start to show what this project can deliver. So I've moved through that quite quickly. I think I've wanted to leave a little bit of time at the end here for some questions. I'm going to go back to the original slide here, which talked about where we see the value of this project. It's all very important to understand what's going on in the battery metals market, because that's very critical and very relevant, as we're going to be selling approximately half of our product into that battery metals market. Any growth in that market is obviously going to give us a lot of leverage, and obviously see our project develop into a market that's got plenty of demand. The product itself is excellent. The size and scale of it is good. The location is good. So in all the key facets and aspects of this, we are certainly feeling very comfortable about where we are and where we're going. And I think that we've got a project of some considerable importance in this particular market going forward. And we just want to continue to do our job. We want to continue to develop the value and to show the market that we've got something that is going to be an incredibly important and valuable graphite project going forward. I think I'll leave it at that and ask if there are any questions, because we've only got 20 minutes and I know I'm running out of time. So I'd rather spend a little bit of time answering any questions if there are particular ones.
Will EVs always run on lithium graphite batteries, or will other materials be used to increase battery life?
I think the word always is a difficult one, because always sort of stretches out for a long, long time. As far as I'm aware at the moment, there are considerable different alternatives being trialed and tested. We're all aware of that. There are a number of different things that people believe may take the place ultimately, but for now, and certainly for the next decade and probably longer, the lithium-ion battery is the one that the market is going to be using, and certainly the one that all these 200 plus gigafactories, megafactories are shaping up to produce.
Yeah. So moving on from that, have you got any other projects in the pipeline, or are you totally 100% focused on graphite?
At the moment, we're focused on graphite, because obviously this project is large scale, and it's got the quality and all the attributes which are on the screen right now telling us that this is worth chasing. It doesn't mean that we can't look at other projects. I think if we looked at anything else, it would be have to be synergistic in terms of either location or obviously into the same battery metals market in terms of other battery metals. Yes. And possibly both, if it was something that was nearby that was also battery metals orientated. So we are always brought projects by different people, and we obviously have a look at it. But for now, as we sit today, the only project that we're focused on is this one.
And you mentioned earlier in the presentation there's high demand, which we obviously assume is high demand, but is there high demand from a particular country that you're focusing on?
Sorry, is there high demand for graphite in our country?
Yeah,
is that what you're asking?
From a particular country you're focusing on in terms of selling?
Well, most of the demand for graphite is coming from China as we speak.
Yep.
Most of those mega factories are in China. Most of the anode manufacturers are in China. In fact, all of them at this stage. But it doesn't mean to say that will always be the case. There's a huge awakening, I suppose, is the right terminology, of the need to really move into the space, which is not necessarily just battery manufacturing, but all of the intermediary processes in between, such as anode manufacturing, sphericalization, all the bits that we take our end product and we move it through these processes, and ultimately it becomes part of the anode and goes into the lithium-ion battery. But I think Europe in particular is waking up. There's a lot of focus at this stage from battery manufacturers, from auto manufacturers to move into the space. So I think by 2025, when we are starting to produce in any sort of quantity, we are anticipating that it won't just be China, it will be Europe and potentially North America as well, where we'll be selling product into. So we haven't opened up any offtake discussions yet. We literally got the metallurgical test results approximately a week ago and announced them.
Yeah.
But we will be starting to go and focus on end users, of people that might be interested in our product, and obviously start those discussions with offtake partners over the next couple of months.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. You covered that because somebody mentioned about partners. Do you have any estimates yet for your possible project, capex costs, and what infrastructure exists locally to the project to enable power, etc.?
Yeah, that's a good question, and thanks for that. We basically have a project that can go into production quite quickly because we've got the mining license, but infrastructure is a very important part of it. Infrastructure being roads, in particular roads and electricity. So we have roads that go to our site, which are tarred roads, except for the last 100 kilometers. We're in discussion with the government in order to tar that last 100 kilometers, and they're quite amenable to the idea, so we'll continue to lobby for that. And then we would have fully tarred roads literally from mine site all the way down through Uganda and into Kenya and to Mombasa port, which would be good. Ultimately, we'd like to consider putting our product on the back of a rail cart and railing it to the Mombasa port. Over time, the standard gauge rail line from Mombasa all the way to Kampala will get completed. It's about 3/4 of the way through at the moment. So infrastructure is work in progress, but we could move product tomorrow to market along the roads that we've got. We just obviously want them to be better. Electricity, there is standard electricity, standard phased electricity, literally all the way down to the village of Orom, which is about 3 kilometers from site. So we will be able to hook up into that electricity grid and utilize that going forward, which is a huge bonus. But at the same time, we'll be looking at different alternatives as backup, in particular some of the renewable energy, such as solar. But we will obviously also be continuing to use a bit of diesel as backup as well. So yeah, the infrastructure is pretty good. By African standards, I think it's excellent, because we're not stuck in the middle of the jungle somewhere having to hack roads down and start from scratch. But we'll always continue to try and make it better, because that obviously makes a big impact. There was the first part of that question, which I've need you to ask me again, if you can.
I said about, do you have any estimates yet for your possible project?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the size and scale really is dependent upon what the market wants to take. We can produce literally hundreds of thousands of tons, but we'll start small, because that's the right way to go when you're developing a brand new project. We'll probably start around 20 to 30,000 tons of graphite per annum, and we'll set up a plant for that size. Now, the early estimations of cost for a plant of that size, inclusive of all the infrastructure that I was talking about before, and everything else in terms of initial working capital, etc., are in the order of about 60 to 70 million US dollars. So it's pretty doable in terms of mining projects. I think that's a very good number to be looking at. Most projects are significantly higher than that. But what we'll have is a plant that's scalable, which means that as the anticipated demand for graphite rises, you saw that graph that I showed from Benchmark Minerals Intelligence that forecasts that the demand is going to significantly increase over the next decade and beyond. It doesn't just stop at 2030, by the way, it increases beyond that also. As that demand kicks in, as the demand for graphite intensifies, we will have a plant that is scalable, which means that we can add to it quite quickly and reasonably cost effectively in order to increase our end product volumes from 20 to 30,000 up to anything, literally anything, because we've got so much graphite there at Orom-Cross.
Okay. When would you envisage first production?
Well, we're envisaging it at best to be 2024, but that will be obviously startup and commissioning, and proper production would only be from 2025. So in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to go through a feasibility study, PFS next year, DFS by 2023, and we'll have a decision to mine at that point, raise the money, and obviously if we've got offtake partners lined up and signed up, then we'll be raising money and building the plant in 2023, 2024 to have full-scale production from 2025.
Okay. So you said earlier in the presentation, obviously the government is very favourable because they had an election earlier this year. So are they offering sort of tax breaks and incentives, obviously because you're employing local personnel, etc.?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes to all of the above. We'll be negotiating hard in terms of getting every bit of uplift and incentive that we can, because we obviously want to provide the best economic output and results for the company. At the same time, we also want to lobby hard to the government to support us build some roads, tar some roads, help us obviously with the connection up to the grid in terms of electricity and everything else that they can, tax breaks, etc. We'll definitely be negotiating all of the above. We are in consultation with them all the time. They're obviously watching us to see what's going on. They're very interested that we'll be providing not only a new mine, but new jobs up in the area. As I said earlier in the presentation, we've got community agreements and we're working with the local community as well. So yeah, it's a process, but we'll definitely get there in terms of as much as we can possibly get out of the country and obviously offering them as much as we can give at the same time.
Okay, I've got time for one more question. There's a couple of questions come through. Do you see any negative impact from Sudan and Republic of Congo? Any evidence of terrorist influences, i.e. Al-Qaeda in Uganda?
No, there's nothing where we are. DRC is a long way away, so that's not a problem. Sudan is also, well, South Sudan is obviously bordering onto Northern Uganda, but at the moment anyway, it's very stable. So the whole region where we are in northeastern Uganda is pretty stable at the moment. We don't know obviously what's going to happen in the future, but at the moment, President Museveni is doing a very good job of maintaining the safety and security in the country.